Hi folks, and welcome to this video on video. Now I'm going to have to beg your forgiveness because I'm still getting used to this AVerMedia setup. I'm actually recording audio on a USB headset for the microphone, and I'm listening on another headset which is running off a jack. So yes, I'm actually wearing two headsets, and I'm very glad that I'm not shooting any front-facing video. Right. I also tried to change the resolution of the screen, but the AVerMedia wasn't having any of it. Instead of recording less pixels, it actually recorded a smaller screen with a black band around the end, which was absolutely useless, but there we go. Now, of all the various file formats, some of the proprietary ones cause a bit of grief. It's relatively easy to get around most of the issues, and there's two ways that I do it. The Canon video recorder, where I just record some footage, no, I don't even bother to top and tail it. I just run it through something called AVConv. Just going to zoom in on here so you can see this. Long story short is there's a command called ffmpeg, but whenever I try and run it, it says that it's depreciated and tells me to use AVConv instead. On that one, it has an input file, which is the proprietary mod put out by the Canon camera. I give it a video bitrate of 3 million, which for me is a nice balance between size and quality. I then tell it it's got two audio channels, an audio bitrate of 48,000. I ask it to do a strict experimental, which allows me to output to an MP4 file. And then I can just upload that MP4 file straight to YouTube, and everything's fine. Now, the other technique is to use VLC. These are some of the files as output by the AVConv, the AVerMedia system. As you can see by this, the primary file is 4.2 gig, and it's obviously then had to overflow to a second file to continue. This second file is the one that has a problem somewhere in the header, because whenever I try and import that into the editing system, it just doesn't want to know. I tried converting to MP4 using AVConv, and it wound up with grey artifacts for the first couple of frames. So I used the other method of conversion, which is to use VLC. Now if I fire up VLC, what you'll be able to see is some of the options, which are media, convert, save. All you then need to do is open the particular media, which in our case is the TS file. Once you've got that, you just say OK, convert, save. You've got your various options for the output. You just give it the destination file and it does the job. Now as it happens, in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one that I've done earlier. As you can see, it's about 400 meg as opposed to the 1.3 gig of the original, which for me is perfectly fine for the kind of gaming video that I'm doing. So, originally there was something called Cinelera, and there were some forks of Cinelera. Cinecutie, I think, was another one. They were used for a while because there was another system which is called KDN Live, but it was a bit buggy. Lately it has settled down. Also, I've been trying OpenShot, which promises great things, but it's got some problems. For example, if I just drag this TS file into the window and bring it into the playlist, whenever it gets to the stage where it actually has to display a frame from this video, poof, it goes away. Oh, how glorious. Now, for this video, I'm just going to show you a relatively simple setup. This is KDE Live. On the top half you can see you've got your clips section on the left. In the middle you've got your effects and your transition stacks. On the right you've then got a clip and project monitor. Below that you've got the 3 tracks for video and 2 for audio. You can add more tracks, it's just this is what happens when you default turn it on. To the projects, we're going to bring the initial 4.2 gig and the converted follow-up file. I'm going to drag that one into video 2, and I'm going to do that because we're going to put a title clip ahead of it. I'm also going to add an effect, which is motion speed. When I added speed, you'll see that I got an effect against this particular track, and I can adjust the various options in there. So it's now at 300. So there we go, and if we have a look at the project monitor, you can now see that that is running ridiculously fast. What I'm going to do is add this track to the tail end. Now, I'll warn you, the most problem I have with KDE NLive these days is when I'm actually dealing with speeded up tracks, because I think it gets the length of the track wrong. So this will either work or it'll fail. And it worked. Sometimes it just won't let me put the clip bumped right up against the previous one. So I'm going to add an effect here, motion speed, and I'm going to knock this up to 300 as well. And that's gone a bit bananas. What happened there? Don't know. Let's try it again. Add effect, motion speed. Sometimes this happens, and when it does, we can sometimes have grief. Yep, it's done that again. Error removing the track because it's not there. Yeah, it's not too much of a fan of speed tracks. So what we're going to do is just nudge this up until it's all the way. We'll just zoom out a little. I've added another one of the first track and added the speed, because what you'll find is that it's got its knickers in a twist. And I think what I'll probably do is just do a new one. Okay, save document changes. No, we'll just do this again, and we'll add the clip in. Video 2, add effect speed, 300%. That's happy. Ba-bum. I'm going to do a little trick. I'm just going to put that up there on the track that goes above it, and then I'm going to add effect motion speed. Right, and if I have a look at this one, you'll find that this is okay. If you have problems bumping these tracks up close, as you'll see, it's just giving me the error message there. It won't let me do it. It can't move the clip there because it's getting the calculation wrong somehow. I don't know how, but the easiest thing to do is to put your second speed adjusted clip and put it on the track below, and it normally clips into position. I'm just going to show you this clip happening, as in as you can see, as I get closer, bump, it just goes and sorts itself out. If I wasn't putting the speed effect on it and making it faster, I'd expect it to work with no problem. But as you can see, even though it's on the track below, it's worked. Right, so now on the end of this, we're going to add a fade out. So we're going to add an effect. You've got all sorts in here: color correction, color, blur and hide, audio correction, crop and transform, which gives you a key frameable rotate, among others, distort, fade. You've got some fun stuff and miscellaneous, and we're going to put we're actually going to put a fade to black. So that should now fade. If we come along here, it should start fading to black as we go out, and there it goes. For the first one, we then put a fade from black. Boom. So as you go, you can see it coming up there. Boom. We're also going to add a title in here because we are putting in a thank you to Long John Silver for the music that's used. So we're going to add a title clip. Now you've got the usual stuff here, text, speech bubble, blah blah, and then that'll go in. You can control the font size, color, centered, left, right, the rest of it. I've already got one loaded, so you can save one that you've done. I'm going to open the document, LJS Dream, created with a different frame size. That's fair enough, so it's sorted it out. And we're going to OK that. Right, so there you are. We now have the title clip in, and we're going to put it into video track 1. We're going to leave it until after it's settled, and then we're going to have it come up. Now you'll note that there is a sort of a yellow section that goes between, and we can control that affine. As you can see with this affine up here, we have the time lapse for its life, and as you can see, dream yourself awake, blah blah, it just stays there, and currently it would then go. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 keyframes. You can see the initial keyframe here, which has an X and Y position, width and height. You can also shove it to a line. You have a size and you have an opacity. You've also got some rotation options in here and some distort. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it a little bit further, and we're going to add a keyframe. We're going to then take it to the back and add a keyframe there, and then we're going to add another keyframe there. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the end keyframe and change the opacity to 0. Then we're going to jump back to the first keyframe and change its opacity to 0. So as we go on, the opacity rises until it's visible, and then at the end the opacity starts to fall, and you can see it fade out. We're going to affine it with track 2. We could leave it on auto, but sometimes things can get a bit mixed up. So just for safety, we're going to tell it to affine with track 2. And that is pretty much that effect in. So we're just going to run this. Video comes up. We start to build the terrain. And so does the thank you. It'll obviously run smoother than that in rendering, and then it vanishes. We're now going to add some straightforward music in here from Long John Silver. This is from his Dream Myself Awake album. So we're just going to drop that in, and we're going to put that on the audio tracks. So that one goes in. We then jump to the ends of that, put in number 9, and by the time we've gone to the end of that and put in number 15, we can jump to the end of the whole thing and bring that in, and also tell that to add an effect of fade out. So that's going to fade out the music. So if we just play the last few seconds. There we go. Right, and we're just going to double check the start to make sure that everything starts nice and smoothly. Brilliant. Everything's fine. That's a nice, simple editing, really. You can obviously do many more things in here. I'm not sure what version this is, but I think this is a bit behind about Kdenlive. Yeah, I'm not sure when this was built. Yeah, but for the majority of it, it works. If I have problems with it, I just typically save the project that I'm working on, and then I just close down Kdenlive, start it back up again, and it's normally fine. Obviously, with these affines, you can do a lot of things, including the rotate, size. Using this, you can do things like picture-in-picture. For example, let's just try and do it. I'm not sure if it's the affine that's the way to do it, but add transition affine, change the affine. So we'll have, say, 50%. We're going to affine it with video 2. So you can see this. We've now got 50% there. And now all we do is just drag it to wherever we want it. So we've instantly got a video in video, picture in picture, or however you want to say it. And if we just jump to that, we'll just say 40%. So now we have a video in video. Let's just see how that looks. It'll probably have a few rendering issues because this machine isn't all that powerful. We've still got that affine selected, which is what's giving us that. And there we go. And that's the picture-in-picture is actually running at standard speed. I haven't applied a speed effect to that. Now, one of the things that you'll notice when you start it, we're going to just trash that, is you've got various profiles that you can choose from of sizes. Now, one thing that normally happens when you start something is you can see the default, how many default video tracks, how many default audio tracks, do you want thumbnails for video and audio. If we actually start up, I'm just going to close this down. Do you want to save? No. And I'm going to start that back up again, Sound Kdenlive. And I'm just going to add that single video track because something should happen. There we go. It's given us a warning. It's saying that the size of the clip that we've imported does not match the clip, the size of the profile. So we're going to update the profile, and you'll see that it's immediately changed it to a HD 720p at 29.97 FPS. Now, this will only be offered when you load the first clip, and typically the first single clip. So be on the watch for that. You'll also note another quirk. For example, you'll note that the new project that I use is typically 1024 by 576. Now, having that, what I'm going to do is just, do I have any? Actually, I don't think I've got any raw footage from the video camera. Let's just load some stuff up here for a moment to show you. Now, you'll obviously note that the footage from the video camera that I play is normally 16:9, but the actual video detail, if I ask for the media information, is actually 720 by 576. So the recording, the pixels recorded is 720 by 576, but it uses its own statistics to push it out, and it says, look, I actually want to play in a 16:9. So here we've got physical data of 720 by 576 coming off the camera, but actually stretched into a 1024 by 576 format. Now, what I have to do, if I dragged this file in and said, OK, update the profile, because this is saying, your profile is actually 1024 by 576, but this is actually 720 by 576. If we update the profile, what'll happen is the rendered output will not match what you're seeing in the project monitor, because it will be I'll just render a section of this by setting an in point and out point, and I will render a section of this for you. Just say selected zone, render to file. This is just going to render a simple in and out point. Talk amongst yourself. While that's doing, I'll just go into the Kdenlive output. When it catches up. Now, to get some of the options, you may need, depending on your installation, to go and get some extra codecs. You'll typically find support on the Kdenlive forum. Right, rendering finished. If I now try and play this, what'll happen?
I'm tired.
Ooh, that's different. It has actually rendered it in 16:9, which is impressive. What it used to do is squash it, but it seems to honor it now. Oh well, that's news to me. Now, think. What I've just done is realized that I may have actually mucked up because the mobile phone that I normally use is switched on, so hopefully I've just switched that into airport mode. It has actually done it. It did previously squash it, so what used to happen is I used to say, OK, set up a new project in 1024, and when I used to import it, I used to say, no, don't adjust the project, keep it as it is, and then it used to stretch it naturally. When it comes to render your project, you have a number of different formats. MP4 H.264 AAC is the one that I normally use, and I typically select a bit rate of 4000. You've obviously got a lot of options in here. For example, MPEG-2 if you wanted to output DVD, if you wanted to output a VOB file, and all the various bits and pieces for that. It's down to you how you want to output them, and at the bottom you have the option to do the full project or just do a selected zone. So if you've done some effects, you want to see what they look like and make sure that it matches, you just render the particular zone and see what it looks like, and then you just render it out to file. You've obviously got a few other destinations that you can choose from: media players, Lossless HQ, mobile devices, DVD, audio only, under which it will select various options for you. Websites, I haven't actually got anything set under here. I just use file rendering and then upload. You can put favorite profiles in as well. Copy the profile to one of your favorites. So I can do this, do that, copy to favorite, and if I go into favorites, it should now be there. I just got to change that. Oh well, that could be why I never bother with using the favorites. Who knows? But that is very simple and straightforward. Obviously, it can be a little buggy now and then, but to be honest, this is the most stable video editing suite that I've found to date at the moment, which is the start of 2016 on Linux. And it does the job. Obviously, with some proprietary formats, it doesn't like. You just got to convert them beforehand and away you go. But typically that's it. So, yeah. Catch you later. Bye for now.